I finally got my dream camera. So this is the Sony FX3. This was released back in March 2021, right before Sony released the Sony A7 IV, which is my main camera since 3 years ago. Back then, I was torn between shooting videos or photos, so I did both professionally and personally. And right now, I'm leaning more towards into videography. So if you're like me and you're looking to upgrade your hybrid camera, I think this is the camera for you. Getting this camera, this FX3, is I think perfect because this is a video-centric camera that has so much features that will make your life as a filmmaker or as a solo videographer easier because of the features that it has. What I really like about this camera most of all is the form factor. This is like just your regular photo camera without the EBF. Although it's light and compact, it still feels premium because of the build quality. It's made out of mostly metal and plastic. Being a cinema camera, it has a lot of mounting points on the body itself. This camera is so light that you can put this on a small gimbal and use it all day of shooting without having your arms getting tired. And being lightweight means that you can put this on a C-stand and create those overhead shots. Another thing that I really like about this camera is the tally lights when you press record. It has these red lights around the camera that tells you that you are recording. I'm telling you, this is so useful. I cannot count the times that I forgot to press record and thinking that I'm recording the shot just to find out later that I didn't press the record button and missed the shots. This feature is really handy, especially when you're shooting outside in bright lights. Sometimes the red border that you can see on the actual screen when you start recording, sometimes outdoors you can't see that much that the red frame is in there, so it's easy to miss if you're recording or not. When it comes to handheld shots, I recommend you to rig this camera out because, as I said, this is a lightweight camera and usually being light introduces a lot of jitters on your shot even if you have IBIS in your camera. But if you rig this and put a lot of extra weight, you'll get that natural looking camera shake on your footage. So to rig this camera, I recommend you to use the SmallRig Hawk Lock Advanced Cage for Sony FX3, Sony FX30 with the XLR extension kit. This cage gives you much more mounting points that you can use to make your camera more flexible with different angles, like doing vertical shots or using a magic arm to rig it somewhere that you can put the camera. This also comes with this hand strap so you can have an extra security while hand holding it. It is also compatible with the other SmallRig accessories like this monitor arm, this V-mount base plate, which you can slide on and off the cage pretty easily because it is Arca Swiss compatible. If you wanna put the camera with the cage on, you just slide this and lock like that. Or if you don't want to use the V-mount, you can just remove this and just have the camera on you. Sony cameras are also known with their decent battery life, especially with the cameras that has this kind of battery, the NPF-Z100. But on the FX3, you have a shorter battery life because this has an internal fan compared to the Sony A7 IV that doesn't have a fan. If you're shooting all day or add more weight to your camera, I suggest you to put a V-mount battery and power this through the USB-C. And for that, SmallRig provided me the VB99SE, which is their compact and lightweight V-mount battery that gives you a lot of option on how you will power your devices. Like there is a Type C, Type A, there's 12 volts, 8 volts, and also a D-tap on the side. So with this battery, I get around 4 to 5 hours of shooting with the FX3 and also a camera monitor. So to make this rig look and function more like a cinema camera, we have to use a matte box. This is the SmallRig Matte Box with VND kit. Yes, this matte box has its own VND filter that you can easily remove or install because it is magnetic. So this kit comes with the 2 to 5 stop ND filter, which also acts as a CPL on its own, but if you put the CPL number 2 filter, it becomes a VND filter, and you can control it using this cogwheel at the top of the matte box. It not only makes your setup looks good, but also adds functionality as well, like the flag at the front of the matte box. You can use this to cut or even remove lens flares. What's really cool about this matte box is that you don't need to use a 15mm rod or use different kinds of adapters to mount it on your lens, because it's compatible with lenses that has 67 to 82mm filter thread. It uses this clamp mechanism that locks the matte box to your lens by just using the inner threads of your lens, adding more flexibility and the ease of use of removing and installing it from your lens. So as I mentioned, the VND is 2 to 5 stops, and I wish it has the 6 to 9 stop as well, because sometimes when you're shooting outside and it's broad daylight, the 2 to 5 stop is not enough. When you're shooting like 2.8 or even f4, sometimes you need the 6 stop or even higher. I don't know where you can get the CPL3, which is their 6 to 9 stop, and there's this comment on their page that you have to contact their customer service if you want to avail the higher stops of the VND. They also sent me their newest 10-in-1 filmmaking tool in collaboration with Riot. So the coolest thing about this tool is that it has a locking mechanism. For example, if you need the flat head, you need to press this and get the flat head, and then it will lock about 90 degrees. Right there, it's locked. So you can use it like that, and then also it will lock at the 180 degrees like that, and then you can use it like this. So it has different Allen screws, Phillips, flathead, so it is labeled as well, and it's so small that it fits in your hand. So check out this SmallRig XFilm Riot 10-in-1 tool. So this is how it looks like, fully rigged. It got a lot heavier, and pairing this with the IBIS of the camera, this helps eliminate the micro jitters that we can introduce to the camera while shooting handheld. So I want to thank SmallRig first on providing me these accessories, the cage, the V-mount battery, the V-mount plate, the matte box that really create this whole rig for me. So if you want to check every accessories that I use for the handheld rig that you saw earlier, I have the links in the description. Also, I think they are running discounts this time of the year, Black Friday deals. So going back to the FX3, besides from its form factor, I also really like the low light capability of this camera. This is one or probably still the leading camera when it comes to shooting in low light. Having a dual base ISO and also Cine EI mode with this camera from 800 ISO to 800 ISO and still get a clean image with that high ISO is, I think, a phenomenal feature of this camera. This feature is so handy, especially if you're doing a run and gun shoots like weddings that you don't have any control of your lighting scenarios, and also when you're traveling, if you like to shoot golden hour, having that high ISO during golden to blue hour, this camera will perform perfect for that. I can't believe when I first used this and tried it with the higher base ISO, it was like it is much brighter than what I normally see with my eyes. So it's incredible. Having a clean image with that kind of brightness is like mind-blowing. For the scenes that I need lights when shooting with my Sony a7 IV, with this camera, sometimes I don't need to set up lights for this and just use the ambient lights, and I still get a good image out of it. And being a Sony, this has a fantastic autofocus. It locks to the subject's eyes really well, and you don't have to worry if your subject is a human or cat or an animal. You can choose whatever kind of subject you want to have it focus on the eyes. So if you're shooting solo, the autofocus of this camera will save you a lot of headache and time, especially when you are relying more on the camera and the lens's autofocus. When it comes to slow motion shots, this camera is capable up to 120 FPS full frame 4K. That is not possible with my Sony a7 IV right here, which you can only shoot 4K 60 frames but in Super 35 mode, which is an APS-C mode. This camera has two CF Express Type A slots and also SD card slots as well. And also, if you're planning to use SD cards with this camera, you need to keep in mind the requirements for the SD cards if you want to shoot 4K 120, 4K 60 frames, and also the all-eye format for this camera. And if you're like me and you are in a budget, I'm using this Kodak 128 gig V60 card. With this card, I'm able to shoot 4K 120 with this on the 4K SAVC, I think, format, but I was not able to use that kind of frame rate for the all SI mode because this card is not fast enough. I think you need the V90 or the CF Express Type A for the all-eye format. You can also use your own LUTs and load it in this camera so you can see your final image through the viewfinder. And also, this camera is capable of de-squeezing if you're using an anamorphic lens. So yeah, this camera has a lot of those cinema camera features that you don't get with the hybrid camera like the Sony a7 IV. And also, this camera was used in some Hollywood films, and that right there says a lot about this camera's capabilities. I don't know if Sony will release an FX3 version 2 in the near future, or this year, or the next few quarters next year. We will probably get the global shutter from the A9 III or the AI autofocus from the ZVE1, but as of right now, this camera is so good with what I need as a solo shooter, as a solo creator that focuses on videography and filmmaking. So what is your dream camera? Is it the FX3? Comment it down below. And also, don't forget to check the SmallRig accessories that I mentioned earlier if you're planning to rig your FX3 or FX30. Also, don't forget to check my other videos about filmmaking tips, solo creator tips, and gear reviews. You probably find something that is interesting and helpful to you as a solo creator. And that's it. I hope you like this video, and if you do, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you again next time. Bye.